Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here tonight. Don't forget, I'm here Mondays through Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Mondays through Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for live shows. So we get together, we have a great time. Welcome, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and start off with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this day, this moment. We ask that you continue to protect our country, lift us up. Father, I pray there's an international revival. I pray your perfect will be done and that you get the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's go. Who do we have here? We have Lord Lazarus 2025. Hello, welcome. And you're saying you'll be brutally honest. I don't know what the rush was to pardon these two. Okay. Hello, June Stanley. Hello there. Fan Up Patriot is in the house. Yes, shalom to you. All right. And we have Marla. Hello, Marla. Bernie's in the house. Mega Trump. Hello, Mega Tamara. I'm sorry, Mega Tamara. How are you doing? And my husband, Calvin Bentley II. And there we have it. Those are the ones I see in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right. Don't forget to smash the like button, guys. Always smash like, comment, share. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Click all notifications. And I kindly ask you to stick around to the end of the video. Now, first things that we got to talk about this pardoning business of Todd and Julie Chrisley. Okay, you guys remember them, that reality TV show? You know, they're in this mega huge house. They had this 30,000 square foot house in Roswell, Georgia. I mean, huge. Then they moved to Tennessee and they scaled back to like over 5,000 square feet. So they scaled back tremendously. But yes, I wanted to talk about that because, you know, it was interesting. I read about it, you know, a few years ago because they were, you know, indicted in 2019, convicted in 2022. Let me make sure I got my notes right. Yes, indicted in 2019, convicted in 2022. They gave Todd 12 years, Julie Chrisley 7 years. Okay. And if you don't know, we saw the thumbnail and it was about tax evasion, bank fraud, and conspiracy. And it was like they were convicted on conspiring to defraud banks of over $30 million. Conspiring to defraud banks of over $30 million. Now, I was like, I knew that was what they were convicted of, but they said it had to do with like political pushback. Okay, it was politically motivated as to why. And we already know there's, you know, problems in our legal system. I did not dig deep enough to find out for sure if they should have been, you know, rightfully convicted and served out their sentences. Okay. But they were convicted in 2022. We already know who was the president. But to be fair, they were indicted in 2019 during Donald Trump's first term. All right. And so I'm going to play you a little bit of a clip from their daughter, Savannah Chrisley.
Oh my goodness. Okay, y'all, I tried to do an Instagram live earlier and I was driving, trying to get home to get my life together, and we are freaking out over here. Well, I have shed so many tears. The president called me personally as I was walking into Sam's Club and notified me that he was signing pardon paperwork for both of my parents. So both my parents are coming home tonight or tomorrow, and I still don't believe it's real. I'm freaking out. The fact that the president called me, I will forever be grateful for President Trump, his administration, and everyone along the way, all of my lawyers, the people who put in countless hours and effort and love for my family to make sure that my parents got home. I am eternally grateful. I'm freaking out. I'm still sweating. We're getting some clothes together for mom and dad, getting their room put together upstairs, and I'm just speechless. I can't thank you guys enough for sticking with my family along the way and for loving us and supporting us. And Grayson's showing me like all of these things that people are posting, and we are so grateful to all of the political figures that I have come in contact with over the past 2.5 years that believed in me and believed in my family. Thank you. It still doesn't feel real. It doesn't. I'm freaking out. So
she's freaking out. So I just wanted to share that with you all. That's Savannah Chrisley, their daughter, and she was instrumental in pushing to try and get her parents pardoned. Now, again, I am hearing that they were targeted because of their political beliefs. They are supportive of President Trump. And so that's why they were targeted. So it could be targeted. I mean, you know, they look like they were living a very lavish life. And then they moved from Georgia to Tennessee. I believe they moved to Nashville while the show was going on. And I always wondered, well, why did they move? You know, what's going on here? So I need to dig into that a little bit more. But from what I'm hearing from some of you is that it was politically motivated. Okay, and that they were targeted because of their political views and support of President Trump. And again, they were indicted in 2019, convicted in 2022. Todd got 12 years, Julie got 7, but now they're home. I'm pretty sure they're home because that video was from yesterday. That was exactly about 24 hours ago when that video that Savannah Chrisley recorded, when she put that out. So yeah, so they're out. And I'm going to share some other footage with you guys, you know, a little news clip here just to give you a little bit more information on these two.
For breaking news as well. I want to put this up on folks' screen. If you watch reality TV at all, you've probably heard of their names. Of course, we're talking about Todd Chrisley from Chrisley Knows Best, as well as his wife. It's official. President Trump has pardoned them, Todd and Julie Chrisley. He did it today in this conversation, a phone call that he had there with their daughter, Savannah, who's been very outspoken over the last few years about her parents' conviction. And now it's official. President Trump deciding to pardon Todd and Julie Chrisley. Michael, this is a very interesting thing that this is a move he decided to make. But again, what else do we know about the Chrisleys, how long they were going to be in jail? It was certainly interesting when they first got sentenced. I remember that.
Yeah, they were indicted in 2019. And obviously, President Trump was in the middle towards the end of his first term, but was still president at that point. And then in 2022, they're ultimately convicted on tax evasion, fraud, bank fraud charges. And Todd is sentenced to 12 years in prison. And Julie, his wife, gets sentenced to 7 years. So they go in, obviously, in 2022. They were not anywhere near the ends of this sentence, especially not Todd. So for him today to officially get word that President Trump was going to pardon them and that they will now walk free and have these charges and the conviction behind them, obviously a massive, massive win for them. They have long felt like this prosecution, which was in Georgia, was political. You talked about their daughter, about Savannah, and how she spoke out. She said it at the RNC when she spoke. And she, again, really believed that they had been targeted over political reasons and that this was not a just verdict nor a sentence. And, I don't know if that's true or not. I think the people who worked on the case would say, no, that's not the case. You committed a crime and that's why you were sentenced to what you were sentenced to. But I suppose it doesn't matter right now because it was a federal conviction and Donald Trump is president and he says you're pardoned. And again, they are about to walk free.
It'll be interesting. And we'll hope that some of those cameras there with TMZ will be there as well once they're releasing and getting out of prison. So. If you guys are able to bring us any of that footage, we'll certainly take it. Again, with TMZ, Michael Babcock, we appreciate your time as always.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
All right. Wanted to certainly bring that to y'all here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, though, if you aren't familiar with Todd and Julie Chrisley, want to put this back up on your screen as well. This is the official tweet that went out from the Associated Press. They're citing the Associated Press, saying that President Trump was set to pardon reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley, who were convicted on fraud and tax evasion charges. So if you had watched their TV series, Chrisley Knows Best, they gained fame for showcasing their lavish lifestyle and tight-knit family dynamics. The show, though, debuted back in 2014, and it built a very loyal following as well. But of course, that public image took a major turn when they were indicted back in 2019 on multiple federal charges, including tax evasion, wire fraud, and conspiracy. In 2022, though, both were convicted of orchestrating a multi-million-dollar bank fraud scheme and for submitting false documents to secure loans and avoid paying taxes. And as we just heard Michael mention there, Todd was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Julie was sentenced to 7, although we know both of those were later reduced, but now it's official. President Trump has decided to pardon them. And again, we want to listen into that message that President Trump put out and his team put out on their social media accounts. We were listening to what he has to say in that phone call with the Chrisley's daughter, Savannah. Let's listen in.
That's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing, but it's a great thing because your parents are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow. Is that okay? We'll try getting it done tomorrow. So
wonderful.
Give them, I don't know them, but give them my regards and wish them a good life.
Mr. President.
Yes. How are you?
I just want to say thank you for bringing my parents back.
Yeah, well, they were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing. Pretty harsh treatment.
Yes, sir.
Was your brother fighting also for this release, right?
Hey, I go to the University of Alabama, and I saw you speak, and I said, that's the greatest presidential speech I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, that's good. I was just there. I gave the commencement. What a great group of people. If you were in the audience, you have to be good. What a good school it was, and I love Alabama. You know, I love Alabama. It's that school is really, that was very impressive when I was there. Yeah, I think I did a good job. I got a lot of good comments on that one, so that's good. I love doing that with great young people.
Yeah, he got kicked out of class for defending you. It was pretty interesting.
Gee, I'm surprised because University of Alabama, if we took a vote, I'd get 90% of the vote, right?
Sure would.
Exactly.
Maybe more, actually. But anyway, well, you keep fighting. Congratulate your parents.
Congratulations, Savannah.
And Alice had a lot to do with this. And just congratulate your parents. And I hear they're terrific people. This should not have happened.
So yeah, that was him talking to Savannah and her brother. And I just, it doesn't surprise me that it was politically motivated. We remember what President Trump has been put through. I mean, when you're in their way of what they want to do, the evil powers that be, the demons, then of course they get upset. They come up with a fake scandal. They come after you using the legal system, which we've seen very recently with President Trump, and it still did not work. So we're very happy that, I didn't look deep into this, but I can believe it was politically motivated, but I'll look into it a little bit more. But I know that President Trump is a kind of person that does his research. And on the surface, it may look like he's just pardoning these rich white people because, that's what the legacy media is going to push out. They're going to push out this, and they're going to put a false narrative around it, but they're not going to talk about the Black people who he pardoned, like the woman standing next to him, Alice Marie Johnson. Okay, even though Judge Joe Brown said she should not have been pardoned. Yikes. But let's just say, you know what? God has his reasons for doing things. So we're just going to take it as that. Okay, I believe Judge Joe Brown, but at the same time, God has his reasons, and I have to believe that. I have to go along with that. There's a reason. Maybe the woman got saved, and God said, "I see fit that she be let out of this place." I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I'm just going to go along with it. That is a good thing that Alice Marie Johnson is in the position that she's in. She can do some good there. She got a second chance at life. So I'm going to, that's just how I see it. Just how I see it. Now I got to turn to some other news. Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony, you know, the then 17-year-old back in, on April 2nd of this year. He is now 18, and he is the suspect in the stabbing of Austin Metcalf at a track meet. Now, I did a video stating that they were going to charge Karmelo as an adult, okay, as an adult, but they're going to charge him as an adult for first-degree murder. Okay, that's what they're going to charge him as an adult for first-degree murder. Now, they're going by, of course, it happened in Texas. All right, Texas. And Texas, I always look at them like a very strict state. Like, don't mess with Texas. Don't start mess here. But he cannot receive the death penalty because of his age at the time of the incident. So if convicted, he will do a life sentence, and he will be eligible for parole after having served 40 years. Okay, so if he's convicted, he will be in his late 50s. He'd be in his late 50s, and that's if he gets paroled. I mean, you can go up for parole, and they can deny you. They can say, yes, you can be paroled. Now, this is not looking good for this young man. I feel like, you just get kind of, you get kind of confused with your feelings, but at the same time, he allegedly, took a life, but he's claiming self-defense. I mean, it happened. He was the one who stabbed him. He said he did it. Okay. He said he did it, according to the police report. So he said he did it for self-defense. But people are saying, if it's self-defense, why were you there with a knife? Why were you under that person's tent? Why? And we got to wait for all the details to come out, because a lot of times in legacy media, they don't show everything, like with the George Floyd, like with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, Mike Brown, so many cases where they hid certain details from people, and it made it look like the person should have been charged harsher, like George Zimmerman. Like, why did he get off? I remember being so angry. But they do this on purpose because it causes Black people to get upset at the system. But they hold back the key evidence that was heard in the courtroom. And then the phony, fake evidence, or the stuff that they hid, is the one that they push out into the media. And then it causes Black people to feel a certain way. I think we have been made to be an emotional people. It is by way of the media and the demons, the demon rats. That's just what I think, because they do this particularly well. And I'm going to do a video about this woman. I think her name is Larisha Thompson. She was unalived by illegal immigrants. Okay. And you don't see anything with BLM, Al Sharpton, or anything. No NAACP. No one is to be found. That's because it goes against their narrative, because these were illegals that attacked this woman. And then if you let that out, then everybody's going to know, see, we really don't need these people to be here. And so they got to cover for that. All right. But this was a Black woman who was unalived, Larisha Thompson. She was Black. That's why I say, where is BLM? Where's NAACP? But if it had been a white American man, they would have blown it up all over the place. We would hear about it. We wouldn't stop hearing about it. So you got to remember, there's an agenda behind everything they do. But in any event, Karmelo is being charged as an adult for first-degree murder. And I just want to, I always knew that first-degree murder was like premeditation, and second-degree murder was like without premeditation. And premeditation, you don't have to be like thinking about it for weeks or even an hour. It can be just a split second that you premeditated something. Okay. And then, of course, you've got the manslaughter, which is reckless, taking the life of someone in a reckless, negligent manner. Okay. So we would have to see how this plays out, but I'll try to stay on top of this for you guys. There's a lot of things. I do videos from time to time with Fonnie Willis, Letitia James. I don't feel like dealing with that P. Diddy stuff. Most of the time, I just can't deal with it, guys. It's just too much for me. But I am going to, go ahead and share with you something here. This is a video that I think you guys would really enjoy. Now, this video, the reason I put on my thumbnail that, Black people are finally waking up from the demon rat party. They're finally waking up. We're, finally the scales are dropping from our eyes. I just am so excited because it's just taken so long. This is a group of Black pastors, and they are really giving some good knowledge about what happened with what's going on with the Democrats. Some excellent knowledge. Some people may not be aware of it. And their congregation, again, these are Black pastors. And I hope and pray, and I believe that they will educate their congregations, which might be, more than likely will be a Black congregation. And Black folks vote Democrat still at a high clip, even though President Trump got a huge portion of the vote. All right, and I'm going to play this for you right now. This is very, very good, guys. Just listen up on this. I'm just going to play this right here, right now.
The congressman that represents Tomar. I came all the way down from the United States after we contacted their ambassador, after we'd made formal requests to our ambassador to the El Salvadoran government. And we came here to visit him today. And now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador to get a permit. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming. And they know we have the right to do this. So they need to just cut the crap. Let us get in there and have a chance to see him and talk with him. We got his lawyer here. We got somebody from the unions here to talk with him. Let us in. Stop playing games. Let us have a chance to talk with him.
The illegal aliens that were let in here by the millions, this was supposed to be the new voting bloc to keep the Democratic Party in power. If you remember in Joe Biden's president-elect conference with him, Kamala Harris, and so-called various Black leaders got together on a Zoom call, what was his exact words, verbatim? Y'all better get ready to work with the Latinos because they're going to be the largest minority in America. So you see right there, all these illegals were plants to be a new voting bloc. See, the sad irony is the Democrats know they have the Black vote in their pocket. And when you heard all this talk about voting rights, they weren't talking about Black people. They were talking about these illegals. And Black people need to stop being the willful disciples of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party doesn't care about them. You see how this congressman went all the way to El Salvador to plead the case of one man who is not even a United States citizen. So that tells you all you need to know about the Democratic Party. They want to maintain their voting bloc of illegals, and they want to block everything that Trump is trying to do to get them out of here, because they figure if they can block deportations, mass deportations during the 4 years that Trump is in office, then they feel they'll have a chance again to stay in power through the illegal migrant vote, even though these illegal aliens cannot vote legally.
And so these, again, are pastors, okay? And this is coming by way of the biblical conservative, Sean Crenshaw. You guys can check his channel out. But you got these 5 pastors here. I mean, and what he just said is so true. I realized that it doesn't take, anybody could see that. Stevie Wonder could see that. I got that from Officer Tatum. But it's obvious. It is very obvious because, and I'm not going to speak too much, but I am just disgusted, okay, by what this party has been able to do to Americans. Okay, not just Black Americans, but to Americans. I am disgusted. And I don't think, in my opinion, that they will ever learn. I don't.
I think Pastor Green has identified one of the components of the rationale for why the Democrat Party in particular is fighting for the rights of illegal immigrants. But there's a larger understanding, a larger picture, I think, that needs to be understood here. The Democrat Party is on a mission, and its mission is to undermine our nation and to expose it to a transformation. The transformation that they seek is that they want this country to be flipped into a socialistic paradigm. And part of the theory of making that happen is to create chaos, Out of chaos comes a new world order. I liken this to what is called the Hegelian dialectic. Hegelian dialectic seeks to disrupt what is and to replace it with something different. And it's a process. It takes what is theses, what is, and introduce antitheses, what it is not. And then through the process of synthesis, they come up with a compromise. And they compromise what is into something different, bringing these illegals in and giving them the same rights as indigenous citizens is the recipe for creating transformation or the country into a socialistic paradigm. So there's an ideological motivation, I believe, behind this. And so the Hegelian dialectic is one of those means by which to do that. If you remember, in Frankfurt School in 1929, Antonio Gramsci and sociologists of that time constructed what they called critical theory. Critical theory is a theory that was developed for the purpose of criticizing the system, for the purpose of transitioning the system into something different than it was. One of the definitions of as I understand critical race theory is a social theory oriented towards criticizing and changing society as a whole. Critical theory emerged out of the Marxist tradition and out of what is called or developed by that school in Frankfurt, Germany, as cultural Marxism. And we're witnessing the implementation and the infiltration of cultural Marxism into our culture. And they're having some measure of success. And the measure of success is because they have, within strategic positions within our government, elected officials who were put there by the voting population who was uninformed, let me put it that way. And they have been bamboozled into believing that the Democrat Party has their best interest in mind. One of the mantras of the Democrat Party is that we're for the little guy. And little guy in this case means the poor and disenfranchised in the culture, and primarily the Black community. And they have manipulated the community to get them to vote for candidates who do not have the best interest of our nation, of the community, and of the founding principles that undergird this nation at all. Those elected officials come into office as socialists, and they legislate, and they disrupt, and they're pushing an agenda that is antithetical to the founding principles.
I'm pausing because I see you guys are asking what the crowns are after your names. I don't see any crowns. I'm so sorry. I don't see them. I don't, unless you're talking about a little thing when I put your name up. No, I don't know. I don't really see anything. Sorry. But I'm so glad that these pastors are really opening their eyes and can lead their congregations maybe in this matter, because some people think that you should not mention politics in church, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't. But I would encourage people to focus on their biblical focus on the Bible and compare it to the policies of each party is what I would recommend. I would definitely recommend that. Always focus on policy. Look at what they're saying, not what they're saying, but what they're doing, what they've already done. Because they can lie when they say something. They don't always tell the truth. But I'm going to continue this. And I love some of the points that they have brought up. And I don't know, I'm not just going to mention this and then I'll get back to the video. I thought about the civil rights movement, how it was very communist in its nature. And I found out that MLK was not even a believer, that he really did not believe in the virgin birth, the divinity of Christ, the second coming. He was a flat out unbeliever, and he was a minister, and he had all this orgies and stuff, allegedly to have had all of this terrible, like Sodom and Gomorrah behavior. And there were a lot of people that belonged to the LGBT community in the civil rights movement. So this is something that whatever the demon rats were doing is not new. They started it decades ago. I'm talking the 60s. They probably was planning it in the 50s. I mean, this was orchestrated, artfully so, to have us depending on the government and to take God out of everything. Remember, prayer was taken out of schools in the early 1960s, I think 1961 or 1962. All right, so this has been a long time coming, and God is just interfering with the plans
that undergirded this nation and made it one of the greatest nations on the planet Earth. I think there's a larger picture going on here. Yes, they're manipulating to maintain power, but they're wanting to maintain power for what purpose? To undermine what is and to transform this country into something other than what it is.
I was to use a couple of words. I think it's called the Stockholm Syndrome. We fell in love with our persecutors. And those who have particularly in the early 1900s, late 1800s, during the 1900s, with Jim Crow, the same party that hung us, the same party that killed us, the same party that enslaved us. Now we have fallen in love because they gave us a little government cheese and some eggs. And as a result, they have developed a dependent class. That's why they need illegals. African Americans are no longer the dominant minority group. The Hispanic community, I believe, is predominantly minority group today, and they want to do to them what they did to us, make us dependent upon them so that we will vote for them. And the reason why they are so prone to illegal immigration is because it's about power over people. As my brother Green said, they want to stay in power. And illegal immigration was what they believe that would accomplish that for them. And secondly, I don't think we as African Americans demand much from our leaders. We don't demand them to fight for us. We put them in power and trust that they're going to do what they say they're going to do until they get to DC and things doesn't change. I'm offended that any congressman would go outside of the country to fight for somebody who's not an American citizen. I just read today where 1.4 million illegals was on Social Security. And when you look at the illegals getting all this money, they get free hotels in Manhattan. Now, I've stayed in Manhattan. It ain't cheap in Manhattan. Ain't no Motel 6 in Manhattan. Ain't no Crystal in Manhattan. You got to have some money to stay in Manhattan. It's nice up there in Manhattan. And yet they get these hotels, $360 a night or more, 3 hot meals a day. They move some of the black kids out of schools and put them in other schools, sometimes gymnasiums, and put the illegals in there. And I'm saying to myself, where are our representatives? Where are they? If If the Democratic Party was fighting for the white man, black people would be raising all kind of sand. But again, as you stated, the Cloward-Piven rule, that's in effect. As Pastor Broden said, the Marxist philosophy is in effect, because Marxism promises, but it never delivers what it promises. But the main thing, in my opinion, brethren, what we're witnessing is an anti-God paradigm that's being perpetrated upon America. Remember something, and I tell my congregation, and I still believe this: Marxism and communism cannot take root where there are vibrant churches. Everything they're doing in this culture is aimed at the church. It started with the COVID stuff. They kept the liquor stores open. They kept the grocery stores open, but they want to shut down the church. I'm thinking, does not COVID go to the grocery store? Does COVID not go to the pharmacy? You know, it only goes to the church. I'm thinking, why is this? Because I think it was a test case. I really do. I think it was a test case to see how far and how much Americans are willing to give up their rights, okay, for this pandemic. Now, remember something, brethren, is this: where there's an expansion of government, there is depletion of rights. Okay, and government has gone wild. They think they can do anything, and I'm horrified that any politician, particularly my African American politicians, will go down to El Salvador and fight for a criminal. And we got black veterans can't find homes. Some of them need hospitalization. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this picture? Why aren't we rising up and saying we need to demand more from those who look like us?
He's right. He's right. And I told y'all, I've told you. Look, I don't like to say I told you, but I'm going to say I told you this time. I told you. They use black people to keep the other black people in line. That is an old overseer method. They was doing that back in the day during slavery. That's how you know the parties never switched. They want to say, well, there's something happened in the 70s with Nixon. BS. That's just them lying again. Or whatever they said the Southern strategy took place. Yes, the South used to vote Democrat, but when they looked at the Democrat Party and saw that they were giving out free stuff and taking God out of everything and certain things about the Democrat Party, and a lot of people in the South go to church, and we call the Bible Belt for a reason. Then they switched to Republican. That's where the switch took place. The parties, the people in the parties never did. You had maybe a couple go from Democrat to Republican, and that's it. That's it. It's the same party, the same institution. And is about, and I've always said, this is not even about Democrat, Republican, and it's about good versus evil. This is about turning us away from God. Remember, they turn a right to do something. Well, they turn a sin, something wrong in the eyes of God. They turn it into a right. It's my right to do what I want to with my body. It's my right, to change my body if I think I'm in the wrong body. And they want to pass that on to little children as well, lowering the age of consent in some cases when it comes to changing their bodies. And now I believe in Minnesota, they can, an underage person that's well underage without their parents' consent can go and get their bodies changed. Now that is some special kind of evil. How in the world could anybody in their right mind, once they know these things? When I saw that, I said, you know what? Never again. Never, ever again. And I'm not playing. I am not playing. They will never get another vote. Not from me.
Okay. We can't no longer say, I'm going to vote for you because you black. I tell people, you might be my color, but you're not necessarily my kind. Okay. And I'm not voting for anybody that's going to have an anti-God philosophy and put stuff in this culture, because it's going to translate to the society. Remember something, and I'm going to let you talk. Morality affects economics. So it's not by accident that they're waging a war against the family through all this immorality stuff, this transgenderism, this LGBTQ, all this kind of stuff. If people say, well, they deserve rights. Everybody in America got rights called civil rights. What they want is special rights. And they want to make me as a pastor, eventually, try to make me as a pastor embrace something that they know I can't embrace. And if I don't embrace it, they're going to make laws try to shut us down, because this Marxist socialist philosophy cannot work where there are vibrant churches. So they need churches to give up God, okay, and go with the culture. So you got the culture over God rather than God over culture. That's what I think.
People need to understand that what's going on is an invasion, a purposeful invasion that's been perpetrated by our own government. And unfortunately, many of our citizens do not have the first idea of their civic responsibilities. They don't understand their rights or their responsibilities of being a citizen. They don't even understand the three branches of our federal government system or our local government system. So when you can get people to tug on the heartstrings of folks, and they start talking about, well, gee, they just want a better life for their family, and this, that, and the other. Of course they do. I do too. I want a better life for my family. But since people want to get down to the minutia, what I say is this, okay? How many of you are willing to open up your door and let some family that you do not know come live in your house? That you're going to just take those folks in and with your wife and your children, and you're just going to bring them in your house without any knowledge of their background, with any knowledge of their, responsibilities, or if they're criminals or whatever. And see, we get this weird liberal mindset that if it doesn't affect me personally, then, I'm okay. But I've never heard one person accept that proposition that they will let somebody in the house. It's just like this idea that I'm supposed to be responsive to any black person. And I don't know a soul in the world that if some black person is going to knock on your door at 2:00 in the morning and say, hey, let me in because I'm black, you're going to let them in. It doesn't work that way. I mean, we have a responsibility, number one, as human beings. Number two, as men, to take care of our family. And we have a responsibility to our government. If we allow people to come in here and just suck up all our natural resources or our tax money, our children aren't getting educated in this lousy secularized education system in the public schools as it is. And I think this is on purpose, but that's, we can talk about that another day.
And I just want to shout out to Savrix for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, they're spitting facts right here. And the bad public school system where the kids can't read, they can't write, they can't do math at grade level. This is an intentional dumbing down, because when you keep people upset, emotional, divided, and they're using race and other things to divide us, and ignorant, can't read, and keep them unarmed, what do you think that is? Oh, okay? People aren't stupid, all right? But what they have done is socially engineer us. They've been doing this for decades, and people's eyes are opening right now. And I got my own personal belief about, the end times and what I think might happen, looking at the WEF and things like that. I'm like, interesting. They want God gone out of everything. All of the policies on the Democrat side, and I'm not saying Republicans are all that great, but their policies are better. The policies are better on the Republican side. Some of them are horrible. The Republicans are, yeah. But the policies on the Democrat side are just abysmal. Okay, diabolical. All right. I've heard some conservative YouTubers call the Democrats the Diddy-crats, because some of them, their names have come out in that whole P. Diddy thing. So yeah, that's what I say. But I'm going to go ahead and continue with this.
But nevertheless, you bring in a bunch of illegals and they've created laws where we have to educate those people. So you put them on top of our children who aren't learning anything other than about drag queen story hour and how to experiment with their bodies when they don't even know what their bodies can do. It's just a recipe for disaster. And I think all three of the pastors pretty much hit it in where it needs to be hit when we're talking about a socialist Marxist ideology that's designed to corrupt and destroy our present governmental system. These people want to get rid of the Constitution, but they can't get rid of it outwardly, so they want to get rid of it inwardly, and they will destroy it and they will corrupt it, and they're making the thing just fall apart. So yeah, people want to talk about these people want to take care of their families. I would say, okay, tell their governments to do their job. That's why we have countries. If we didn't have countries, then we wouldn't, then you can have, I guess they want this one world leader to lead everybody. No, send these folks home. And as far as this Joker and all these Democrats, unfortunately, they love to go out of the country and take care of somebody that doesn't even belong here. What blows my mind more than them are their so-called constituents that tolerate that nonsense and still vote for these people while they're the ones suffering.
When you talk about people in church who believe this is some benevolent adventure that they can go on to allow people to just flood the gates and come in any kind of a way, I don't think they have a good biblical understanding of who and what and how God operates. He's a God of decency and he's a God of order. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I like to quote that scripture from Leviticus 19:34 that says, "But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." They forget that one part there where it says he shall be unto you as one born among you. In other words, he is going to assimilate. He's going to obey your laws. He's going to respect your order. When heaven has gates, surely our nation should have gates. I mean, there's order and there's decency in everything that God does. And I think a lot of people, when they go on that benevolent adventure of, which I think is kind of ignorant in some regards because they don't understand the Bible fully, they think that they can take the mandates that God gave us as individuals. And Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. That was an individual mandate. You do not give that mandate to the government. The government has a different role. If you look in the New Testament, he says that the authorities don't bear the sword in vain. His roles are different than what our roles are. He used to execute justice. He used to execute judgment, to bring order, to punish evildoers, those that break the law, such as entering our country illegally. And I think they sorely mistake what your individual responsibility as a Christian is for what the government's responsibility is. If the government doesn't operate the way it should, then we as Christians, we can't operate the way we should. That's why the Bible mandates us to pray for those in authority who may live a quiet and peaceful life. But when they operate the way that these bleeding heart liberals want to operate, it creates chaos. There's disorder, and we can't operate the way we want to. Because when there's no law, there's no protection for Christians, there's no protection for anybody. It benefits everybody when we decide to obey the natural laws that God, the Creator, put here on earth. And I think what we see the Democrat Party doing is once again idolizing their own desires and trying to trump God's way for power. And I think a lot of this goes back to these globalists also. We are the last large, strong, independent nation that exercises sovereignty, through and through. I mean, throughout our history, we declared ourselves sovereign. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. Mm-hmm. And I think we are a threat to their globalist agenda. And a lot of times what they like to do is they like to invite people from all over the world to come here across our borders. And these people get better treatment than a lot of American citizens do. We have Army vets sleeping on the streets that need help financially, mentally, spiritually. They're being neglected. You got, families at home that are jobless, that need help, that are American citizens. They get neglected. And these people that come over illegally get preferential treatment. Well, that's demoralizing. That's really demoralizing. And what that does for some is, to those that know right, it's demoralizing. But to those who are ignorant, it's energizing. So you got one side that's demoralized and one side that's energized because they think they're doing something benevolent. So I think it's an exercise in futility. It's definitely demonstrated as being purposeful. They know what they're doing, and I think it's very strategic. And a lot of it, as mentioned before, is our own undoing. We decide to vote these people in. We decide to watch these things happen. And as long as we do that, I mean, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're getting what we asked for, but We got to stop being these people with eyes wide shut. We have to wake up and see it for what it is. This isn't benevolence. A lot of these people that are coming here, especially across the southern border, I believe it's 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 women are being raped. A lot of these children are being sex trafficked. If you want.
And that was pretty much the end of that. So a lot of stuff is going on across the border. He just mentioned it. All right. And remember when there are 300,000 children, we don't know where they are. You know, like what happened to these children? They might not even be alive anymore. That's so sad. That is awful. And this is what we're dealing with. These men get it. These men get it. And they are pastors. So they're going to go back and help their congregation get it. And, you know, they brought up a very good point. During, you know, the pandemic, you know, we weren't allowed to worship. But then they had the liquor stores open. They had all the BLM riots. They had all these other things open. And I remember when Obama was president that they were trying to push on preachers to perform certain kind of marriage ceremonies, the same-sex marriage ceremonies. They wanted doctors to perform these changes on people's bodies. And, you know, some people don't feel comfortable with doing that. It goes against their religious beliefs. And they were pushing this under Obama. I remember it specifically. There were people, bakers in these bakery shops, or same-sex couple would come in and want a wedding cake. And they would be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. They can go somewhere else. There is a baker that will do it. Okay. All right. They need to just have a little pride flag in the window saying, we got your cake over here. So don't even go over there and try to start any mess with someone that clearly is a Christian baker. All right. Just go to where they'll make your cake is what I say. Because people are going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. We make our choices in life. There are people who are not going to choose God. They're just not. The road is broad on the way to hell, okay, and narrow is the way to life, and few find it. And this is an attempt to turn us away from God. And it was very clear when we were told we could not go worship together at church. That was very, very obvious. And then to take parental authority from parents. If you live in certain areas, and I believe California is one, if your child is confused about how God made them, and if they want to do that to their bodies and the parents say no, they take the child away. That's crazy. And I remember Joe Biden, when he was president, saying they're not just, you know, these children are our children. They're not just the parents' children. They belong to all of us. He said that one time. I wish I could find that clip. I don't know if people catch it. You know, they belong to all of us. Like, no, they belong to their parents. Okay. No, don't start the foolishness. Okay. Don't start the foolishness, because we preach truth over here. Okay. Let's see what else are you guys saying? Oh, yes. And you're saying good, they got a pardon. I got to look into that a little bit more. Yes, they use us, honey. We get emotional about skin color. And just because someone looks like you, that could be the biggest demon, because that's who they're going to send to make you fall for it. Okay. They've sent the one who looks like the group whose votes they need. And now with the illegals, they're like, wait a minute. Now, we don't want them deported, because they want to give them goodies. And along with that goodie, you got to vote this way, because Trump going to send you behind back. And yeah, they told the truth. He going to send them back. But if they're not violent, they can come back the right way. But how do we know they're not violent unless they're properly vetted? So they can just go kick rocks barefoot. Okay, going around here saying things like, no, he's being racist. No, y'all being racist. Yes. You said, who is the they you're talking about? I'm talking about the demon rats. All right. Yes, very good. Okay. And I'm just reading your comments here, but I want us to just be mindful, to be careful about when we speak politics and things around our family members. I try not to do it. I spoke to an aunt today, and she said, I hope Trump doesn't mess with my Social Security, is what she said. And I was like, he's not going to mess with it. Okay. And that was that. And she said she'll be good if it's just left alone. Okay. But that's all I have for tonight, guys. I thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and make sure you select the all notifications button, the bell, where it turns black. So all notifications. And I thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I'll be here tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And follow me on social media, guys. All the links to my social media are in the link below, in the description box below. I need you guys to really, really follow me on everything. Twitter, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. But I really appreciate you all supporting me on my channel. It is growing. I do want more views on videos, but I just have to, I'm pushing them out. I was pushing them out at 4 and 6, but I see I need to push them out at 6 and 8. And these are my recorded videos. When I say videos at 6 and 8, I'm talking about the ones that are pre-recorded. I'm going to push them out at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. unless something major happens. Then I'll jump on and do a live. Okay, I'll be good for that if something major happens. But at 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And then my lives are always Mondays through Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America. And as I always say, march on, warriors. Good night, everybody.